And welcome back to the channel. So currently Jupiter is transiting through the sign of Gemini, and while it's moving through Gemini, it will also pass through different nakshatras or constellations. On the 14th of June, Jupiter will be moving into the nakshatra of Ardra, which is ruled by Rahu. So Ardra has a slightly different quality to Mrigashira, where Jupiter has been transiting previously. So Ardra has a stronger element of communication, but it's also a much more dynamic nakshatra where it can make a person change things in their life quite dramatically. So it is considered quite a transformational nakshatra, and therefore a little bit of a challenging one. Now, because Jupiter will only be transiting in Ardra for a couple of months, the effect in many people's lives will be quite subtle. So it's not really something to be overly fearful of, but just be mindful that there can be changes in the house where Jupiter is transiting. And Jupiter is naturally a benefic planet as well. So for some of the signs, obviously Jupiter is a functional malefic, but Jupiter has that natural benefic quality as well. So it will give some positive results. So I'll go through the predictions for each zodiac sign, and I recommend looking at transits from your moon sign. So let's get started. For Aries natives, Jupiter is transiting in your third house of Gemini, and on the 14th of June, it will move into Ardra Nakshatra. Now, because Ardra is ruled by Rahu, and Rahu's energy is good in the third house, and Rahu itself is placed in your 11th house, so this can be a fairly positive transit. So Jupiter in Ardra here will give you an urge to do something new, experience something new, and take a risk with something new. The third house is about beginning something new on your own. And therefore, the energy here is supportive to start a small business if you have been thinking about that. If you already have a business, then this is a good time to be innovative, adjust your strategy, or adapt and be flexible to customers and clients' needs. Ardra here is about discarding outdated practices and strategies and making way for new opportunities and growth. So it could be that something in your business needs changing, or something has changed due to regulations and laws and practices. So you will have to change something, but the end result will be positive for you in a business sense, as long as you're someone who does not get overwhelmed by thinking, thoughts, and ideas. Now, it's important to remember Mars is with Ketu, which means that you may need to resolve and address things in the past, related to the past rather, before you can move ahead and make any changes or start something new. This transit can also make a person explore new hobbies. So for example, if we look at your chart, Saturn is in the 12th house. And this can suggest that, some of you may be trying to manage some sort of health issues. So this transit in Ardra will kind of encourage you to be more physical and active. So a person may take up something like jogging or cycling. Ardra is also a very curious nakshatra. So throughout Jupiter's transit in the third house, it will bring opportunities to explore new things, explore new places, and travel. And the third house is to do with short distance travel. So when I say travel, it isn't just going to another country. You can actually travel within the country you are in. So this is a time where you may visit like a rural or nature place, like a countryside or wilderness places, because that is represented by Ardra. Now, you just have to be mindful that any travel you do undertake, there can be last minute changes or cancellations, because that is the nature of Ardra. It causes a little bit of chaos. So allow plenty of time to travel. In terms of communication, Jupiter in Ardra is very good for communication, and those whose work is to do with writing and speaking, this period will be really good. You can be very persuasive and influential, making this time excellent for influencers and content creators. Those that are students or are studying, this transit will also enhance your curiosity and analytical thinking. So the next 2 months, you will learn a lot. And Mars will also be in your 5th house with Ketu. So you'll be learning a lot from your past actions as well. Jupiter in Ardra can bring some spiritual curiosity. So this is a time you may seek a deeper understanding of various beliefs and philosophies. You can also be receptive to new ideas and perspectives, which is part of the transformation which this nakshatra can bring. The transformation of your beliefs is not about changing your religion, but more about being open to other perspectives and values. Now, the 3rd house, it also represents your immediate environment. It represents your neighbors and your younger sibling. So Ardra, it is a little bit of a stubborn energy. So this transit can create a bit of a storm. So not literally, of course, but there can be some disagreements with neighbors or younger sibling during this period. So for example, you might be living in an apartment or flat and there could be excessive noise from neighbors. So this is a period where you might have to take the necessary steps to make your living quality in your immediate environment much better. For Taurus natives, Jupiter is transiting your 2nd house and will move into the nakshatra of Ardra on the 14th of June. So Jupiter is really good in the 2nd house. It can give a lot of good results. So this transit in Ardra will basically add a distinct flavor to this transit. Ardra is an intellectually curious nakshatra. So Jupiter's transit here will make you think about what you can do to improve your financial position. This transit is about improving your financial literacy and finding better ways to grow your money, because Ardra, it wants to change the way you are managing your finances. And it is also a risk taker. So this is a time you may look at different avenues to invest your money. Taurus natives are generally wise and patient in terms of their finances. So with this transit in Ardra, you do have to be a little bit careful where you are investing. Now Ardra, it is also associated with sadness. And this transit of Jupiter can also show that you can benefit from a difficult event. So Jupiter is ruling your 8th house. So here a person can get an insurance payout, for example, where you could be the beneficiary due to an accident or loss of a person or property damage. So for example, if the roof of your house is damaged by extreme weather like a storm, and then you contact your insurance company and then they pay you the money and you get a new roof for your house. So that's an example of the energy of Ardra Nakshatra. The 2nd house is your family and it represents your immediate environment. So Jupiter in Ardra can be a little bit of a separative energy where you might not feel comfortable where you are living. And if we look at your chart, Ketu and Mars are in your 4th house. So they're transiting in your 4th house. So Taurus moon people especially will be feeling a little bit dissatisfied where they are. And you might feel like breaking free. Jupiter in the 2nd house can help you buy a property. So during this period, you might be itching to find something new. But you do have to be a little bit cautious and patient in your approach. The 2nd house, it also represents your values. So with Ardra Nakshatra, your values and perspectives can go through a change. You will discard anything that doesn't really resonate anymore, abandon or disregard beliefs and principles that you are no longer connected with, and discover and learn what your new guiding principles are. So the aim of Jupiter in the second house essentially is to learn about yourself by identifying what is meaningful to you. So for some of you, for example, being away from your family could be the best thing for you. Being away from your home country, being on your own, and having that independence and freedom to make your own choices and decisions, which is also associated with Ardra. As Jupiter is also ruling your 8th house, its transit in the 2nd house in Ardra does have some potential to cause some health issues with your senses. So your eyes, nose, ears and teeth can cause some discomfort during this period. There can also be throat issues, so you have to take care of your diet and look after your delicate areas. For Gemini natives, Jupiter is transiting your 1st house and it will move into the nakshatra of Ardra on the 14th of June. So the 1st house is one of the best houses for Jupiter to be in. And when it is in Ardra Nakshatra, it will encourage you to break free of any limitations and societal norms that you have been living your life by. It will basically encourage you to take risks and step out of your comfort zone. So with this transit, first of all, there will be a shift in your beliefs, values and perspectives to some degree, so that you can allow yourself to embrace a broader perspective of life. So sometimes people, they have beliefs and principles which limit their options to expand their life. So for example, if someone is a vegan, so they don't eat certain food, they might be reluctant to visit some of the countries where it's difficult to find vegan food. So with Jupiter in Ardra, you're trying to move away from some of these limiting factors and move away from your comfort zone so that you can live life more expansively and grab opportunities that may come your way. Another example could be a person from India gets a job in South America, in Brazil. And in the past, they would have turned it down because they might have been worried how they may not be able to integrate with the local culture. But now with Jupiter in Ardra in the 1st house, these are the types of opportunities that a person can be embracing. Jupiter in Ardra is also independence and freedom seeking. So as well as changes in your location happening, potentially, you can also have a desire to have your own place to live. So you can find your own place during this time. Ardra, it wants to have the independence and freedom to make their own choices and decisions and live their life is what this transit is essentially about. Along with this independence can obviously bring more opportunities, more responsibilities, because you have to take care of yourself. So it can also be quite a busy period. Now Jupiter is also ruling your 7th house, and when it is in Ardra, if you are married, this is a time where you will want a sense of freedom to make your own decisions and choices. So marriage, it obviously involves compromising and having equal say. But there are some marriages or there are some periods in relationships where a dominant person makes the choices and decisions. And with Ardra, you won't be happy with not having a say. So there can be clashes and disagreements with your spouse during this period. But this is a time where you need to communicate and have deep, meaningful conversations to resolve any issues. Communication and maintaining individual identity is very important with Ardra Nakshatra. So trying to change your partner to fit your model of what a partner should be is not going to work with Ardra Nakshatra. If you're single, a person from a different background can come to you. So this person can be unconventional, from a foreign country, different religion is possible. And this person can also be someone who you can learn from and have very stimulating conversations. Jupiter is ruling your 10th house, so changes in your work is also possible, new opportunities coming your way, and you can embrace them because that is what Jupiter in the first house is about. And finally, in terms of health, it's important to take care of your respiratory system. So be careful with what you are inhaling, stay away from smoke, fumes, and dust. And if in the past you have suffered from asthma, then this can be aggravated during this period. For Cancer natives, Jupiter is ruling your 12th house and will move into the Nakshatra of Ardra on the 14th of June. So Jupiter in the 12th house is good, but it doesn't give the type of materialistic results that people usually want. It generally gives inner growth and exploration of a person's subconscious mind. So it's a place where a person processes past experiences and prepares for new beginnings. So Ardra Nakshatra here, first of all, is a lover of luxuries. It's a lover of a luxurious lifestyle because it is ruled by Rahu, which has a connection with feelings and experiences. So this can be a period where your expenses can be rather high. Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, will also transit your 12th house and first house. So you can spend on things that will enhance your feelings and emotions. So you could spend on technological luxuries like smartphones, high-end gadgets, laptops, or you could spend on travel. So there is a strong possibility of emotional spending, things that will make you feel better and bring you comfort. So you should try to be rational when spending money in this current transit of Ardra. Now the 12th house is also to do with bed pleasures. And when Jupiter is in Ardra, there can be a strong emphasis on sensual experiences. So the teardrop, which Ardra represents, is a sign of strong sensitivity and emotion, which can translate into a deeper connection and a heightened sense of pleasure in sexual encounters. Jupiter in Ardra in the 12th house can also be a time of healing from any deep-seated emotions and emotional wounds. Anything that you may have gone through from past experiences or trauma that has always stayed with you or that has been deeply ingrained in you, this is a time to release and cleanse yourself. Any accidents, acts of violence, abuse, or anything that you've witnessed, if you've experienced life-threatening situations, any chronic illnesses, anything that you've gone through, this is a time to heal from this. So this transit is all about releasing and letting go of past feelings and experiences that no longer service your well-being and current needs. Ardra is associated with strong communication skills. So this is a time it can show that you can heal through talking and communication, talking to a therapist, a counselor, who can help you release pent-up feelings and reduce stress. Jupiter's aspect on the 4th house can show letting go of old memories and emotions, but Ardra is also about discarding old things in your home. Objects that you might have sentimental value will be cleared out to make way for new things. So this is a time where, for example, you can be forced to change your residence. So for example, your lease might be coming to an end and the landlord isn't extending, or your property might be damaged in extreme weather and you need to move out for a period of time until things get fixed. So that's the power of Ardra. It can make you move when you don't really want to. Jupiter is ruling your 6th house, which represents your work, and daily routine. So with Jupiter in Ardra here, your usual routine can change in June, July, or August. So this can be due to life transition, where you may change your job or start a new job. It can be due to shifts in your personal life. It could be due to changes in your lifestyle. So Jupiter in Ardra here is about discarding what is no longer useful in your day-to-day world. In terms of physical health, you have to take care of your respiratory system. Stay away from smokers, dust, and fumes. And obviously, if you work in these type of areas, then you have to ensure to wear the protective gear. Ardra Nakshatra can also cause airborne diseases. So this is a good time to avoid people who are sick. For Leo natives, Jupiter is transiting your 11th house and will move into Ardra Nakshatra on the 14th of June. So Jupiter in the 11th house is an excellent position. So Ardra Nakshatra will add a distinct flavor to this transit, where it will initiate some kind of change to promote growth. So the ruler of Ardra is Rahu, and anything with Rahu's energy is very good in the 11th house. So you can expect some positive results with this transit. Rahu itself is sitting in the 7th house, and Jupiter is aspecting this house as well. So for people who are single, this is a time where you may develop feelings for someone in your network circle. So Ardra, it wants to break the boundaries of your friendship. It wants to transform your friendship to a potential relationship. So this can happen. Alternatively, with this transit, you can also come across someone who you can have an intellectual compatibility with, and those that stimulate your mind. So this can show that you can come across someone who can be extremely different from you, such as being from a different ethnicity. They can be from a different socio-economic background. So some sort of extreme difference can be there. The 11th house is also the house of innovation. So Ardra, the Ardra energy, is very comfortable here because it can challenge the status quo. So it will allow you to think outside the box and bring a sense of planning and forward thinking. So this is beneficial if you're working in advocacy, if you are speaking up about a specific cause, you can make yourself heard, and there can be action taken. Especially with Mars and Ketu in your first house, you can show compassionate actions to support others. So this is actually excellent for those involved with different causes. The 11th house is your income house. So for the majority of people, income is money they earn through their job. And therefore, we have to look at Saturn's position in the 8th house, which is not the best. Therefore, this can show a person being made redundant, but getting a handsome payout. So that is what Ardra Nakshatra can show. Ardra here can show leaving your job, so your old source of income is over, and you get a new job with a better salary. So there's a strong indication of that. What can also happen is financial planning, finding ways to make more money. So you might look at the stock market or try and find a side hustle to boost your income. Jupiter is ruling your 5th house, and when it transits the 11th house, this is all about gains coming from 5th house matters. So with Ardra Nakshatra, you can get good gains from creative matters to do with communication, such as writing, consulting, and public speaking. And you'll be able to get your point across with conviction. In relation to children, so if you have young children, this is a time where your relationship can go through a transformation because your Ketu is in the 1st house. So it's a period of sacrificing. So with this Ardra Nakshatra, you will learn some invaluable lessons, especially if you are having your first child, or even if your child is a teenager, you will learn some important parenting lessons. So that is what you are gaining. So sometimes through difficult moments, you can have an argument with your child, but then you realize your mistake. So also with Mars and Ketu, a person can be reflecting on their past actions and learning from them. Now, Jupiter is also ruling your 8th house. So definitely going through transformation of emotions, feelings, and events in your life, which you will learn a great deal from. So the 11th house is about gaining knowledge, not just gaining money. For Virgo natives, Jupiter is transiting your 10th house and will move into Ardra Nakshatra on the 14th of June. So the 10th house is Jupiter's natural debilitation position. But honestly speaking, Jupiter gives some degree of positive results in every house it transits. So there really is no super malefic house for Jupiter to be in. So here in Ardra Nakshatra, in terms of your career, you will want to explore something new. So in other words, you will have a strong desire, a strong drive to change your job. So you may not be satisfied with your current role, therefore giving you the motivation to change something. So you can definitely experience a change if that is something that you are looking for during the next couple of months. Jupiter in Ardra is supportive for those working in technology, in communication, in research, education, and anything to do with computers and electronic things. This transit can also make you travel for work because Ardra is about movement, being constantly in motion both physically and mentally. Now, Jupiter is the planet of learning and knowledge and wisdom. So this is a time where you may also learn some important lessons. So not necessarily change your job, because not all Virgo people will change their job. However, this is a time where you may develop your soft skills, such as improving your communication and learning to manage challenges. So when we are at work, we are all gradually developing and learning new things, learning how to write emails using the appropriate language, learning how to develop effective relationships with stakeholders, clients, customers. So a person can have a difficult moment, but then learn something from it. So this can also show that. If you are in business, this is also quite supportive because Rahu, the ruler of Ardra, is an innovative energy. It likes to think outside the box. So whichever type of business you have, this is a good time to enhance it using technology such as automating tasks or digital marketing. So for example, if you have like a restaurant business, you could set up like a digital menu, which many food businesses already have. Jupiter in Ardra is also good for meeting obligations and responsibilities because it has the capacity to multitask and take on a number of jobs at the same time and complete them to perfection. Now, Jupiter is also ruling your 7th house of relationships, and Saturn is currently here. So Saturn here may be causing some challenges in this area of your life. So with this Ardra Nakshatra, this is a time to build resilience in a relationship by communicating and having a willingness to forgive and understand and handle any conflict constructively. Ardra Nakshatra, it needs freedom. It needs freedom and independence. So this is a time you need to balance your relationship. So there'll be a need for individual autonomy with a desire for connection and intimacy with your partner. If you cannot find this balance or be resilient, then the next couple of months can be tricky in relationship matters. In terms of other contractual issues, there can be disagreements and breach of contract with Jupiter in Ardra. So as I said, Saturn is already in your 7th house. So an example might be, you might be renting a house and you don't want to live there anymore. So you might want to break the contract, but the landlord says no. So then you may end up paying compensation, which Ketu in the 12th house can show. So Ketu in the 12th house can show unexpected expenses. So Ardra Nakshatra can create this type of situation where you want to break free. And Jupiter is aspecting your 4th house. So definitely changes in your living arrangements can happen at some point in the next 10 months. For Libra natives, Jupiter is transiting your 9th house and will move into Ardra Nakshatra on the 14th of June 2025. So Jupiter in the 9th house is a good position, and Ardra, which is ruled by Rahu, will bring a greater desire for change and self-discovery towards travel, exploration, and higher learning. So Jupiter in Ardra can make a person seek adventure and new experiences through travel, which is a really positive thing. But because of Ardra's nature, Ardra can create unexpected delays, changes in plan, and even minor incidents. So a recommended time if you do travel to get travel insurance and allow extra time for any journeys that you undertake in the next couple of months. Ardra can show a person traveling to places of nature, to rural places, to wilderness places, and to places which are uncommon to visit. If you are a student or you're studying, Jupiter here is good, but due to Ardra's nature again, there can be some differences of opinion or disagreements with teachers or lecturers. This transit can also make a person change their course, change their modules, or cause minor interruptions in higher learning. So, for example, a person could have a health issue or experience a difficult event where they need to interrupt their studies temporarily. Jupiter is ruling your 6th house, so the transit in Ardra can bring changes to your lifestyle and routine. So for example, this can show changing your diet. So for example, a person may have like a blood test and then they find out there's some sort of deficiency. So then they might change their diet and start consuming more nourishing food. So that is what Ardra is doing. So Ardra is creating a storm, forcing you to change. So a doctor can say to you that you need to change something, otherwise you're going to have problems down the line. So that is what's happening with Ardra. But because Jupiter is in a good house, so any change that you implement will be good for you in the longer run. The 6th house represents your work. So Jupiter in the 9th house can bring changes to your job, and there can also be changes in your responsibilities. So you might become a whole lot busier. Ardra can also bring changes to your reporting line where your boss may change, your manager may change. And here there can also be minor disagreements with bosses or work colleagues because Ardra is an energy that wants to do things their way. So minor disagreements can be there. The 9th house is associated with beliefs. So Jupiter in Ardra can bring a shift of perspective. So this is a time where you might be forced to let go of old ways and old beliefs and embrace new perspectives. Now, because this transit is happening in the 9th house, it won't be too much of a big deal for you. Whereas if this transit was happening in the 8th house, then it could be tricky. Because this is happening in the 9th house, any change of perspectives will bring you immense growth due to Jupiter's aspect on the 1st house. So my advice is to embrace what comes your way, but be cautious in terms of initiating something unconventional. Jupiter in Ardra will aspect the third house, which represents your immediate environment. So the first house, second and third, they represent things or people that are close to you, both emotionally and physically. And the fourth house is obviously your home. So the aspect on the third house can show a difference of opinion with neighbors or siblings. So there could be some sort of disagreement there. Jupiter in Ardra is aspecting the fifth house, and Rahu is currently transiting in the fifth house. And the fifth house, it represents your individuality. So this is a time where you will focus on your uniqueness, embracing who you are, and being okay with imperfections. So if you're single, in matters of romance and dating, sometimes a person can hide things about themselves due to a fear of rejection or societal conditioning and not really show a true picture of themselves. So this is a time now to discard what you have done before and present your true authentic self. So essentially this is about changing your approach in terms of meeting new people. For Scorpio natives, Jupiter is transiting your 8th house and will move into the nakshatra of Ardra on the 14th of June. So this is a house where Jupiter can give you significant change in your life, but which will lead to positive outcome at the end of this Jupiter transit. So while Jupiter is in this house, you can go through major life transformations, but in the end, it will be positive for you. So Jupiter in Ardra, if you're working in any investigative or research related jobs, then this transit is very good because of Ardra's strong drive to understand and explore. Ardra is associated with deep thinking and depth. So this can be a period of significant discovery, breakthrough, and progress. The 8th house is also about secrets, and Jupiter in Ardra is about resilience to break through and navigate and be adaptive. So very good for discovering secrets, and if you're working as a detective, you will also be able to solve complex cases. In relation to health, the 8th house, it represents serious health issues. So when Jupiter is in Ardra, it can give some problems related to the respiratory system, shoulders, arms, nervous system, as well as issues related to asthma and anxiety disorders. So these problems can obviously come from smoking or environmental and occupational factors. So if you're working in a place where there is smoke, fumes, dust, you have to ensure you wear the appropriate protective gear. If you do suffer from any diseases, remember Jupiter's job here is to help you cure any issues. So this is a time you can also have surgery. You could be on medication because Ardra, which is ruled by Rahu, it represents drugs. So at the end of this Jupiter transit, which will be next year, you will feel reborn. Ardra is about discarding old things, including diseases that you may be suffering from, any emotional or mental health issues you may have suffered from in the past. So this transit is about trying to move on from these, trying to develop strategies and manage symptoms and improve your well-being. So you will be able to do this with Jupiter's transit in the 8th house. The 8th house is the house of losing control, but Ardra is an energy which likes to be somewhat in control. So it has a bit of a obviously rebellious nature because it is ruled by Rahu. So therefore, in matters related to shared resources and values, there can be some disagreements with your spouse, which can cause some emotional distress and which can obviously then impact relationship dynamics. So, for example, in terms of how you and your spouse are managing shared resources, such as your finances. So, with Ardra, old approaches can be discarded and new ways to manage shared resources can be found. This transit can also cause some issues with in-laws. So if you do have problems with in-laws, this is about, so you have to try and find a way forward to manage any potential relationship. Now, Jupiter in Ardra will aspect the fourth house where Rahu is transiting. So this is a time where there can be change in where you live. So this can be a sudden change where you might be renting and the landlord out of the blue might say you need to move, or there could be like a problem with the property you're living with. So you don't have a choice but to move. So this is the part of losing control that I mentioned with the 8th house. So obviously if this kind of situation happens, a person does feel distressed. But because Jupiter is a naturally benefic planet and it is aspecting your 4th house, if you do move, you will find a much better place. Now, what can also happen is that the 4th house, it represents your happiness. So with Jupiter in Ardra, there can be some sort of sadness. So, for example, if you are a student, so you get a student visa or you get a work visa approved from another country, and it's time for you to move during this period. So then you might feel quite emotional leaving your, family behind. So these can be like happy tears, but sadness that you are going away from your family. Alternatively, you could be abroad and your visa doesn't get approved, so you end up having to go back to your home country, and obviously then you're leaving your friends and your life that you were trying to build behind. But remember, Jupiter in the 8th house will give you the result which is the best for you, which is for your best interests and future. For Sagittarius natives, Jupiter is transiting your 7th house and will move into Ardra Nakshatra on the 14th of June. So Jupiter is also the lord of your chart. So therefore, you'll feel the energy of this nakshatra a little bit more than the other signs. So first of all, the 7th house is to do with relationships and marriage. So if there have been any complexities in your relationship in recent times, so it could be that you've been on and off with the person, this will be the make or break period. Ardra is about a new change happening. So likely for Sagittarius people, this will be a time where you'll get closure from anything to do with the past, and a fresh person can come into your life at some point. Jupiter also represents your belief system. So this transit in Ardra can also change your perspective in terms of the type of person you might be looking for if you are single. And Rahu being the ruler of Ardra, Rahu is an outcast and is associated with an unconventional nature. So here you might also consider someone who is different to you, a different ethnicity, a different race, someone who is different religion maybe, or someone who's a different socio-economic background to you. So there's strong chances of your requirement or conditions changing in terms of what you're looking for in a partner. If you are married, then Jupiter in Ardra can change your relationship dynamics, where your values, goals, and expectations need to be negotiated with your partner. So the seventh house is the natural house for Libra, and this house is about balance and harmony. So this transit of Jupiter is encouraging deep and transformative communication so that you can come to an agreement. Jupiter in Ardra also wants their own freedom and independence, which means that for relationships there needs to be a balance between individual autonomy and connection and intimacy with a person. The seventh house also represents contracts. So Ardra, which is ruled by Rahu, is an energy that wants to break through and breach a contract because it no longer wants to fulfill that particular obligation. So now in terms of marriage, which is also a type of contract, if you're not able to communicate and have that deep bond with your partner, then this transit can also show some separation or divorce if that is something that you want to happen. If you are in business with a partner, Ardra here can also create a storm where there can be differences of opinion, clashes, or disagreements during this period. So similar to personal relationships, this is a time where communication is the key. And if no agreement can be made, then Jupiter in Ardra will free you up from any business arrangements. Now, Jupiter is ruling your first house, so definitely your personality and belief system will change. Your values will change, and there can be a dramatic change. Your views, beliefs, ideals from the past can be discarded, can be dissolved, and a fresh new mindset can emerge. And this can give some positive results because it will help you in your relationship matters. Jupiter is also ruling your fourth house, so you will feel like breaking free from where you are living, from your family values. You will want to break free from past patterns and create a more stable and fulfilling foundation for your own life. You'll want to break free from cycles of fear and rigidity. So definitely family dynamics can change, and you can also change where you are living. Jupiter being the lord of your chart in Ardra can also give respiratory issues, and this is a period where you can pick up like a dry cough or any kind of airborne diseases. There can also be minor issues affecting your nerves. For Capricorn natives, Jupiter is transiting your sixth house and it will move into Ardra Nakshatra on the 14th of June. So the sixth house Jupiter brings a period of increased activity to your daily routine. It can bring a sense of busyness and the need to focus more on practical matters and taking care of your physical well-being. So now when Jupiter moves into Ardra, first of all, this is a time where some Capricorn people will be able to change their job if that is something that you want to do, because Ardra will force a change. It will bring a storm which will force some sort of change in your work in some sort of way. So it could be that, you might not feel stimulated in your work anymore, so you could be seeking a change. And even if you don't change your job, you might have been working in the same place for many years, but something about your role can change, or the location of the office can change. And overall, it can be an extremely busy period for you, where you could have more responsibilities. But it can also give you an increase in your salary and career growth. Now, if you don't change your job, because not all Capricorn people will change jobs. So during these couple of months, you can also be extremely busy in your day-to-day life. And this Ardra Nakshatra can cause some anxiety and stress. So Ardra can emotionally break a person down. So it's very important to manage your workload. So it could be that, you need to let go of some of your responsibilities. Jupiter in Ardra is positive for those working in technology, IT, and communication. Ardra is very skillful in terms of communication. So this transit is positive if you are a writer, journalist, publisher, teacher, any job which requires written or verbal communication. So you'll be able to get your point across with conviction, and you'll be able to deliver your messages with passion and authenticity. In relation to health, Jupiter in Ardra in the 6th house can show a person susceptible to respiratory diseases. So if you are exposed to dust, chemicals or fumes in your work, or if you have any existing conditions such as asthma or bronchitis, this period can aggravate any existing condition that you have. So take care of your habits and avoid any triggers. Jupiter in the 6th house in Ardra is basically going to bring lifestyle changes, which can include changes to your diet, your physical activity. So you might find yourself constantly on the move. And Ardra here can trigger a health condition whereby you are kind of forced to change your lifestyle. So that's what Ardra can do. It can force you to change your lifestyle. From the 6th house, Jupiter is aspecting your 2nd house. So here, a person can also be plagued by dental problems, ear issues, and can also experience a dry cough during this transit of Ardra. The 6th house, it represents obstacles. So when Jupiter is here aspecting the 2nd house, either it can grow your income because obviously, you'll be working, or Ardra can also cause a sudden expense in your money. Jupiter here in the 6th house in Ardra can also cause some problems with work colleagues, and it can also create legal problems because Ardra will want to challenge the status quo. So Ardra is not an energy that is just going to accept or settle with how things are. It's going to make a fuss. It's going to disrupt the peace and harmony. Jupiter is ruling your 3rd and 12th houses, which are obviously to do with traveling. So when Jupiter is here in the 6th house, you have to be mindful that there can be some delays, changes in the plan, and disruptions in terms of your traveling, because this is what Ardra can cause. The 6th house is already an obstacle house. So there are strong chances of disruption happening to travel plans. For Aquarius natives, Jupiter is transiting your 5th house and will move into Ardra Nakshatra on the 14th of June. So Jupiter in this house is excellent, and it can give many positive results in relation to knowledge, romance, creative self-expression, and children. This transit of Jupiter in Ardra, I should say, will add its own flavor to this transit. So first of all, Jupiter in Ardra in the 5th house is about being independent. It's about having that freedom. So this is a time you will be seeking autonomy to make your own decisions, and you won't really want to be controlled or micromanaged. So you won't really want to be told what to do. Now, for example, if you are married, then this may create a little bit of an issue because your Ketu is in the 7th house. So this is a period where you should maintain some personal space in relationships, because Ardra is trying to break free here, and the ruler of Ardra, which is Rahu, is in your 1st house. So you are firmly focused on how you want to do things. Now, if you are single, then this is a little bit different, as you are already on your own, so you have that independence. So therefore, during this transit, you can come across a person, but any kind of romance you have can be short and unconventional. So I say short because K2 is in your 7th house, which doesn't make it impossible to build a relationship, but it has to be with a very specific person. And now here with Jupiter in Ardra, you can find a person who you can have a stimulating connection with, like a deep conversation with, someone humorous and someone who you can communicate with and have some shared interests. And this person can be from your network circle, who you may see in a different way. Jupiter in Ardra is specifically linked to a strong intellectual curiosity, which means that you'll have a strong desire to learn during this period. You'll learn a lot of new things that you didn't really know before. So Jupiter, remember, is about expanding your knowledge base. And this can be through experiencing a difficult event, because if you think about it, we all learn a lot when we make mistakes. So because of Ardra's energy, you can learn from past mistakes. This is a good time for students where you'll be able to delve deep into subjects. So a positive time for those who are doing PhDs, who are researchers and critical thinkers. You will get a breakthrough. In terms of self-expression, this is a period where you'll be stimulating exploration, finding new approaches and ways to be creative. So this is good for those who are involved with communication, such as writers and journalists and content creators. You'll be able to get your point effectively across, and you'll have the power to influence. You'll have fresh ideas in terms of how you want to express your creativity. In relation to hobbies, this can show a time to experiment with new things, new forms of entertainment, new interests with Ardra Nakshatra. So during this period, Ardra is about discarding things. So in this period, you can discard old hobbies and find new passions. In terms of your personality, now Jupiter in Ardra will make you independent, but it can also make a person a risk taker, especially in financial matters. So this is not a good time to take financial risks because of Saturn's presence in the 2nd house, which already may be making your finances a little bit tight. And Rahu in the 1st house wants to obviously take risks and do something unconventional or out of the ordinary. So this is a period to be calm with any decision making. For Pisces natives, Jupiter is transiting your 4th house and will move into Ardra Nakshatra on the 14th of June. So the 4th house is Jupiter's natural exaltation house. So it's a good position that can give positive results. However, Ardra will add its own distinct flavor to this Jupiter transit. So the 4th house is to do with your emotional foundation, your inner world, which represents your private realm of thoughts, emotions, feelings, and experiences. So it's a distinct place from the external world. So Jupiter in Ardra here will take you on a journey of self-discovery, where you'll be exploring and understanding your inner self, including your values, beliefs, passions, and purpose. With this transit, you are essentially dismantling whatever is outdated, and you are on a journey to reinvent yourself and learn about yourself, gaining great wisdom about who you truly are, and this will increase your satisfaction and happiness. So it can be a little bit of a chaotic time inside of you, in your mind, with some emotional highs and lows, but you will come out with a fresh perspective, during this transit. Jupiter in Ardra can also show that you may dig deep into your family tree, tracing your lineage back through generations. So you'll have that curiosity inside of you about who your ancestors were. And Ardra is very good for going deep and researching. So in addition to this, if you are like a PhD student or a researcher, this transit is also positive, as it will give you a sharp mind and intellect to perform well in what you are doing. The fourth house is to do with where you are living, and it doesn't really matter which nakshatra Jupiter is in, it will try and improve your living condition or arrangements. So Ardra specifically here, it wants to break free and find its independence and freedom. So if you're living with your family, you may feel a little bit of restlessness because you might want your own space, and you will be able to find your own space. If you are already living independently, you might want to change where you're living, or you might want to buy home decorations and furniture that matches your individual needs and personality. So whatever you do with your living arrangements, there will, however, be an increase in your expenditure, which is what you have to be careful of. Jupiter in Ardra is a nakshatra to do with movement. So chances of long distance traveling are there. But if you do undertake any travel, just be mindful there could be delays, change of plans, or incidents, because Ardra has that power to cause inconvenience. Jupiter is ruling your 10th house of career, and Saturn is in a challenging house, while Ketu is also not in a ideal position. So your work will be causing some distress to you. Some dissatisfaction around the work can make you feel sad, but this is a time to go with the flow, because even though things may not be ideal, there will be something good which you gain from this experience because of Jupiter's aspect on the 10th house. And Jupiter is the planet of learning important lessons, which will help you grow as a person. Jupiter being the lord of your chart means that you need to take care of your physical and emotional health. Saturn may already be causing some challenges due to its presence in the first house. So with Ardra, you will feel distance and detached from other people. So you can be on your own a lot during this period. And Rahu is in the 12th house, which is about isolation and being emotionally and mentally on your own. And this can be positive in one sense because it can show self-reliance, but also have a negative impact on relationships where you may not trust your partner and find it difficult to seek support. So it's about finding a healthy balance. But during this period, you will feel on your own a lot, either mentally, emotionally, or physically.